Now today we're looking at a number of different things. Let's say, for example, in your case your vehicle is overheating, the cooling fan or the radiator fan is not kicking on, you're not sure where to look. It's quite simple to do. So I'll show you how you can locate the relay, test the whole circuitry, and test the fans. You can do this at home, and I'll give you some pointers on how you can find these specific relays for your vehicle. Now let's start off by talking about the relay. Now the first thing is, where would you look for the relay? A lot of times they tend to be underneath the hood. So pop open the hood, of course there's the engine, and take a look around the vehicle. A lot of times you'll see a cover that looks like this. Now the main thing to remember here is you're looking for the relay, not the fuse. Two completely separate things. Now if you're not sure where to look, number one, do a Google image search specific for your vehicle. A lot of times you can dig up diagrams showing where the relay lives. Again, not the fuse, you want the relay. Very, very important. If you still have trouble, visit a forum that deals specifically with your vehicle. A lot of times you'll find very helpful members, someone that knows quite a bit about your vehicle, and you can really diagnose and track down where everything is located. But let's say you're just sort of fishing in the dark. You could just remove the cover, and if you flip it over, I'll give you some tips here. Let me grab a screwdriver so I can point this to you. Okay, very quickly, I just want to show you what we're looking at here. Unfortunately, it's cloudy outside, so I can't give you a good view outside, and the light from the camera is obscuring everything, so I have to angle it just right. But what you want to look for, if you do this on your vehicle, and you see all these schematics and you're confused, it's daunting, it's quite simple. What you want to look for is something like this. You see how these schematics are the same? Same down here. This is a schematic of a relay, okay? So right off the bat, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 relays in this area. Now these over here are fuses. As you can see, you don't see any of these symbols over here. So these are fuses and these are relays. So out of these 5 relays, which is the correct one? We'll take a look at this one. This one right here is the same symbol as the rear defroster inside your vehicle when you turn it on in the morning. So this, you know, is for the rear defroster. Cross that off the list. This right here is for the blower motor. This is when you increase or decrease the speed of the heating or the air conditioning inside your vehicle. This turns the blower motor inside the cabin. So cross that off the list. Right here you see a snowflake, right here you see a snowflake. That deals with the air conditioning system. Now the difference between these two is right here. Look at this symbol right down here. This is the symbol of a radiator, and you see a little diagram sort of a fan. This is what you want to look for. We have a fan symbol here, another one right here, but not up here. So this really is for the AC clutch relay. So in other words, when you first turn on the air conditioner, there's a clutch that engages on the AC compressor. So this has nothing to do with the cooling fans, bottom line. So don't worry about that. So if we take a look at these two, these are exactly the same, except this one is a snowflake. When you first turn on your air conditioner, you should hear a fan kick on, and that's what this relay is doing. This is again with the AC system. If you turn on your AC and the fan isn't kicking on, then you can check with this relay. But in this case, we're just dealing with the cooling fan. In other words, it's let's say you're not running AC, but the car gets hot enough and the fan has to kick on to cool down the engine. This is what we're looking for, okay? So again, you can, by process of elimination, you can quickly find the correct relay. Now again, by looking at this guide, you can even see that the relays are quite larger compared to your fuses, okay? So right here would be where the fan relay lives. Again, this is the AC fan relay, and then these are the rear defroster, AC clutch, and the blower motor. So this is the one we need to remove and test. Now when you do remove this, you want to be quite gentle, and just something I've seen over the years, a lot of guys will just take pliers and, you know, pry the heck out of it. If you're going to do something like that, be just careful, you know, be gentle. Do something like this, piece of cloth, get a good grip on there, slowly, carefully pull it up, okay? You don't want to ruin it, okay? And that's it. Now we can go ahead and test this on the bench. Now this is known as a normally open type relay. If you're lucky enough, you may find a diagram on your relay. Some vehicles have them. For example, we did I think it was a fuel pump relay in a Maxima a few years back, and that I remember had the diagram right on it. But nonetheless, what we want to do is test this. Now, how do you do that? We need a battery. You can use your car battery. In this case, I happen to have one of these RC battery packs, so it makes it a little bit easier for me to film, but nonetheless, you can use your car battery. All that we're doing is taking power from this and applying it to the relay. Now, if you hear a clicking noise, that is a good sign, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's working correctly. And I'll show you what I mean. So first, let's get power to this. Now, to make this easier, I'm going to use these alligator clips. Be careful when you do this. You don't want to cross these wires because you can burn out the battery, small fire hazard, you can melt the wires, so on and so forth. Just be careful. That's the main thing. And then all I'm doing is I'm just taking the power from the pack, going directly to the relay. Now, if you had a diagram on your relay, it will tell you which two prongs to touch. In this case, right here, now if I try this, you hear that? You hear how it clicks? Now let's say you're not sure which one to touch. If you did these two, nothing would happen. You see? Because right now inside the relay, there's no connection point for these two prongs. These are connected internally. These two are not. They're open. Okay, there's a little switch that goes on and off, essentially. That's an easy way to think of it. Okay, so if you hear that clicking noise, that's a very good sign that your relay is good. But it's not a foolproof method. Now, what you want to do is test for continuity. What's continuity? Continuity means 2 points make a connection. Use a multimeter, a must-have if you plan on doing your own auto repair. Inexpensive. This comes from Amazon. Just be careful here. For $20, that's all they are. I'll include a link in the description box below if you do need a multimeter. And I'll also include a link if you need alligator clips. If you're a Prime member, you get it within 1 day. Now, if we take a look at the multimeter, bunch of different symbols, but right here you want to look for the Wi-Fi hotspot. Okay, so not this, we're on the right setting, but just hit function. You see that Wi-Fi hotspot? Okay, that's the symbol you want to look for, and then this is what you want to hear. Don't go crazy with the reading, just you want to hear this audible alert. Okay, if you hear that, then your relay is good. So here we go, just be careful. There we go. So this relay is in good shape. Now, if I remove the power source, you won't have continuity. Okay, so you can essentially see how the switch inside the relay works. So if you do this test, then the relay is in good shape. If you do this test, you don't have that clicking noise and you don't have that continuity alert, then go ahead and replace the relay. They're inexpensive and you'll be back up and running. But let's say this is in good shape. What's the next step? Okay, now for this next test, just go ahead and turn the ignition key. Don't start the vehicle, just turn it on. Okay, we still have the ignition key turned on, and I just have a paper clip that I cut in half. Really, you should have something a little bit thicker than this. This is a little thin. This may be a little tricky. But that being said, all that we're doing is we're going to act as the relay. So if you recall, so this is how the relay sits inside the relay box. So when power is applied here, these two guys make a connection. So let's pretend, let's make a connection right now and see if the fans kick on. Now again, the key is still on, the ignition. Don't turn it off. Make sure you have a good footing in here. And then I'm just taking that jumper wire and the fan should kick on. Now if you do this test and the fan isn't kicking on, just make sure you have a good connection point. But if you still have trouble, then there's a break between this fuse box going to the fan, or the fan motor is no good. Now let's test the fan motor. Okay, now the last test is verifying this fan motor is working. To do that, let me zoom in. You have a harness connector. Now in some vehicles the harness connector may be underneath the vehicle. Okay, in this vehicle there's one on top, the other fan on the driver's side is underneath. So this is just easier for you to see and for me to film. So right here you have a harness connector. Just push this back. Now you want to push or pull on the body, don't pull on the wiring. So from this point, this wire runs to that fuse box that we just dealt with, okay? So we're not going to deal with this. We want the wire that runs to the motor. Now you can use your car battery again. I'm going to use, the battery pack. We're just going to apply power directly to the fan. Now if you're using a very, very high gauge or a thin wire, do this quickly, because these can melt out these wires if you're using something really, really thin like I am. This will come off. So if you take a look, let me zoom in. Right here, you see these two connectors? So you just want to hook them up to the battery. That's it, and it should spin. You should see this spin. Now it doesn't matter if you're applying positive, negative, or positive, negative. It just depends on how this is going to spin. And I'll show you what I mean in a second. So let's hook this up. Okay, let's see what happens. Okay, see how that spins? That's what you want to see. Now let's say, for example, if I just switch these, the fan will just spin the other way. Okay, that's it. But this is what you want to see. If you don't see this, then the motor needs to be replaced. Now I do have a separate video showing on how you can just remove the radiator, get access to the fans, and replace the motor. I will do it on this car shortly. I just have to first do a coolant flush before I do that. But I'll include a link to that other video, which we did on a Maxima a couple years back. You remove the radiator hose, typically the upper radiator hose. Remove this entire assembly, and then they're quite easy to replace. And that's it. Now, if this is spinning, but on that last test, you're not getting any results. In other words, that's when we connected the paper clip. Then you have a break from here to that fuse box, okay? So that's how you can really pinpoint what is going on. Put this back in here on your vehicle.